So Robert Greene goes on and on about something. Robert Greene's a fucking badass. Robert Greene is a goddamn badass. Okay? So, Jackson Hinkle had made a couple points about Kramatorsk. He's going to say that Kramatorsk is actually a false flag attack. The Ukrainians are attacking themselves in order to get, a bunch of sympathy. So that way people give a shit about them and therefore they'll, go save them and protect them. Bucha and Kramatorsk are going to be ground zero for me. Let's get to the bottom of Kramatorsk. Let's get to the bottom of Bucha. If Kramatorsk and Bucha were a false flag, that's fucking bullshit, and I'm sick of the bullshit. Right now, I'm on Team Ukraine, and I think Putin did this shit, and I think it's bullshit. The Russians are, they've invaded the fucking country, so who's going to... But Jackson Hinkle on Kramatorsk, he's going to say a couple things. He's going to say that only the Ukrainians fire these Tonka missiles. I know it's not Tonka, but something. There's like Iskandar missiles and Tonka missiles, right? And Jackson Hinkle is sitting there saying that, Ukraine's got a history of bombing city centers in the Donbas. It's what they do. Ukraine just bombs city centers, bombs civilians. You've already had two other bombs that had like similar numbers. They had similar numbers, over in the Donbas area. So the use of the Tonka missile, only Ukraine uses them. Russia, this is what Jackson Hinkle said. Jackson Hinkle said that Russia hasn't used the Tonka missile since 2016 because they stopped buying the interchangeable parts for the electrical panel or the transmitter to the launcher of the Tonka missiles or some shit like that. It was so ridiculously fucking precise. Like Jackson Hinkle is a goddamn expert on interchangeable parts and who buys them and who doesn't buy them. What does he know about the Toyota Corolla, right? Don't the American manufacturers have a bunch of shit that breaks down, so you have to buy all the interchangeable parts and, keep on buying the... Isn't that how they make money, is through the interchangeable parts? But he said that happened back in 2016, so he's like, well, everybody knows 6 years ago, Russia stopped buying the interchangeable parts to the electrical panel outside of the launch pad, not to the Tonka missile itself, but to the launch pad. And so they got out of the Tonka game. They don't invest in the Tonka missiles anymore. Now they use Iskandar. Everybody knows that Russia uses Iskandar missiles. Everybody knows. Do they? I mean, I know that fucking cool guy, persona shit is like, we're all on this side. Everybody knows. Back in 2016, Russia stopped buying interchangeable parts for the transmitter to the launcher of these Tonka missiles. So they don't use the Tonka missiles. We know it's a Tonka missile that struck Kramatorsk. Therefore, i.e., Zelensky's the bad guy. Putin is raping the shit out of Ukraine, but really it's Zelensky who's killing innocent Russians. We'll just reverse it. We'll just kind of 310 miles, 500 kilometers. I want to actually pull up a map about this because the other point that he's going to talk about is the direction that the missile came from. So it came from, about this direction, so you can kind of, sort of figure out. There's a map that says, it came in this area. This is the area that it came from. Well, I went ahead and looked up these Tonka missiles, and actually I'll look them up again because there's a couple things I got. I got a picture of a map, but those Tonka missiles, Tacha. So OTR-21 Tacha missiles. They are, let's see, what would you say, distance? How far can they shoot? Missile defense advocacy. Are they going to tell us? The range. How far can you shoot this bastard? It says 70 kilometers, 120 kilometers, 70 kilometers. Which is, what, a kilometer is just a weak-ass mile, right? So about 100 miles. So these Tachka missiles, they go about 100 miles. So if you look at the map where they say, Kramatorsk was shot, and then they're saying the direction where it came from. If you go 100 miles, it doesn't go to just a Ukrainian military base. The Russians have taken Mariupol. They've taken all the south. They've taken all the way up to the Donbas, Donetsk. And that's why it's at Kramatorsk. That's another thing. Kramatorsk is the capital of the Ukrainian people. Why would the Russians, bomb the capital of the Ukrainian capital of Donetsk? Because it's the Ukrainian capital of Donetsk. Oh my God, who bombed Moscow? Probably Putin. I bet you Putin bombed Moscow. I mean, hell, Putin might, do some shit like that. And hell, I'm not going to put it past anybody that this shit could happen. But they don't have the smoking gun. Jackson Hinkle also questions Bucha. And so does Aaron Mate. Fucking Aaron Mate. But, they question Bucha. But there's videotape. We see a Russian tanker shoot a motherfucking guy pushing a bike up the street. There's literal fucking videotape. My God, how often do you get that? How often do you get videotape of the person with the gun shooting the person and then the other person's body dropping? How often do you fucking get that? We got the shit on goddamn videotape. So 410, dead bodies. We only got the one murder, but we got one fucking murder. So we know that the Russians were occupying the place and they were killing innocent people. They killed an innocent fucking guy pushing a bicycle. Holy fuck. Is that a guy pushing a bicycle? You weak ass, bitch ass, scared motherfuckers. Oh shit. Is that a man pushing a bicycle? Oh, fucking 3-4 blocks away? So there's literal videotape when they want to say, when it talks about evidence, there's lots of evidence, right? There's real evidence and there's the real physical evidence and there's exculpatory evidence, circumstantial evidence, there's hearsay evidence, there's a whole bunch of, kinds of evidence. But if you're going to conclude, well, clearly it must be the Ukrainians that did it. Clearly it must be the Ukrainians. Basically, I feel like it's just the narrative. The only thing they're mad about is the damn narrative. They're like, well, shit. Why? Them people are suffering, so now we got to go save them? Yeah, you stupid piece of shit, motherfuckers. I mean, America, Russia, the Soviet Union. If the Soviet Union was doing this, I'd have, a little bit more sympathy. In fact, I, still like the Russian Revolution in spite of what the Soviet Union did to the Ukraine. Remember the Holodomor. Never forget the Holodomor. Those motherfuckers starved 4 million Ukrainians. Yeah, right. They're good fucking people. Yeah, right. They don't even care about democracy, fairness. They don't care about consent to the governed. Even fucking slave-owning George Washington understood that Constitution and elections and a Bill of Rights and, these things are important. My God, George Washington's more fucking liberal than Putin. Putin's had 4 sham elections. 4 bullshit elections. Zelensky just got in there 3 years ago. So Ukraine can topple their leaders. When there's an election and the other person wins, the president steps down. Poroshenko is no longer the goddamn president. Zelensky just got in there 3 years ago. Putin's been in there for 23 fucking years. 23-year dictatorship. We got George Washington that was president for 8 years. FDR, 12 years. You only get one fucking decade, Putin. You don't get goddamn, 2000s, 2010s, now the 2020s. He's going to get 3 fucking decades? Motherfucker, no wonder. I mean, he is a Stalin, right? He's a piece of shit and everybody don't like him, but since he run shit for 40 fucking years, he basically, the country, the cultural impact, his legacy is secure. So if you pull out a map of Russia's forces on Kramatorsk, you got, you got the Donetsk, Kramatorsk, and then you got Slaviskopol or some shit right here. So you got these, the Russia basically is like, here, I'll try to do it on this, okay? So you got over here, on this side is the Donbas region, and then right here in the middle you got Kramatorsk, you got Donbas right here, and then you got Mariupol right here. And they're going to say, well, the missile came from right here. Clearly that's Ukrainian forces. Now, I will admit that there's a gap there. So you have, this is just the eastern part of Ukraine. So on the southern part you got Russia, and right here it's just blank. Now, just because it's blank doesn't mean that the Ukrainians are there. So, I mean, like in America, like just go, every blank space, the troops aren't everywhere in America, so the Ukrainian troops aren't everywhere in Ukraine, and so therefore, just because the Russians don't control that territory, you can say that's Ukrainian-controlled territory, but what you can't say is that it was a Tochka missile launcher. You got a bunch of Tochka missiles right there, and a bunch of Tochka missile launchers, and that you got goddamn evidence of a videotape of them shooting it, and then, okay, we got the missile, strike and people dying, but what you don't have is the guy that actually had the gun shooting it. In Bucha, we got video of the guy with the gun shooting, and the guy blowing up, dying. The guy's dead. So we got videotape of that. Clear cut, no fucking doubt about it whatsoever. Murders only take a half a second. The fact that it's on videotape, amazing, incredible. JFK, we saw his head get blown off, but we didn't have videotape of the shooter. So the video that we got in Bucha is fantastic. I'm just comparing and contrast the evidence that we have, the so-called evidence that we have in Kramatorsk versus the evidence of, Bucha are, not even comparable. Kramatorsk, we don't have video of the Russians or the Ukrainians, anybody firing the damn missile. But since Kramatorsk is the capital and there's a bunch of civilians, could they do false flag in order to get sympathy? Yes, motherfucking this is Nazi shit. Anybody could, do anything. So, let's see, last but not least, I guess that's it. So if you get the map out, you got Russia all over the place, and you're going to say, well, because right here, the line came from right there, and that's the blank space, so clearly Ukraine, it couldn't have came from right here, and you're telling me not a single, Russian tanker could have been anywhere on that line at all? That doesn't fucking prove it. It's not proven. It's an interesting piece of evidence, I'll give them that, but it doesn't prove it. So let's make Kramatorsk ground zero. Let's make Bucha ground zero. What the fuck happened at Bucha and Kramatorsk? What the fuck happened at Bucha and Kramatorsk? We find out what happened there, then we get to the truth of the whole thing. A lot of atrocities all over the fucking place, but let's just, the media is pointing this shit out. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's get to the bottom of it. Because there's a lot of evidence that says the Russians did it. They're occupying. They're terrible fucking people. They said they were going to go, inside Ukraine to kill them so they could take the Donbas region and NATO and all that shit. They said that they're doing that. They've declared war. They're killing people. They said, they're going to try to, protect the civilians, but they're just collateral damage, right? So when you're attacking military units, also, they could be spies and shit. So you could just make up a bunch of fucking bullshit. Also, it makes me think of that one guy that says, what's your gang affiliation? Oh, I'm not part of a gang. And then the guys shoot him because you're not part of a gang. You're just a fucking dude out here by yourself. So if I shoot you, nobody's going to do shit. What, the police going to do shit? How many goddamn, solved murders? Lots of fucking people. Abel Acosta still out and about, just, having a good old time. Abel Acosta went in, shot 3 different people. Nobody gives a shit. You got Jesus Valet. Jesus Valet was, shot to death. There's 2 bodies that was found in Canyon City. We haven't found out who killed them. And then you got this, let's see, Alejandro Salas. Alejandro Salas. He's, wanted for murder. And then you also have another guy, a Delgado guy. You would think murder would be a crime that Americans would be against, but you got all these murders that are happening. So what's my point is, where's the smoking gun? What are we supposed to do? We need to get to the bottom of it. We need to get to the truth. Get to the truth about Bucha and Kramatorsk. And if it's, as a scientist, I leave open the option that I could be wrong. So if it comes down to, Bucha and Kramatorsk actually being false flags, I'll admit that I was wrong. I'll admit that I was wrong because I don't want to live in a fucking, fictional, bullshit land. I want to live in reality. I want to live in truth and reality. So I don't want to be defending the wrong fucking side. You're telling me that they're doing false flags and they're blaming it on Russia, and poor Russia. They've only killed 40,000 Ukrainians, the poor Russians. You had Ivan the Terrible. You had fucking all them Swedish Vikings, Rurik and Oleg and Olga and all them motherfuckers. The Holodomor. 4 million. They were not just starved. They were starved. Holodomor means the starving terrorism. So they terrorized the motherfuckers. They wouldn't let them leave. They stole all their grain. Now you got to stay right here and then starving to death. So that takes what? A month? 3 weeks? 2 to 3 weeks? What a terrible fucking way to go. What a terrible death. There's also reports of him kidnapping Russians out of Mariupol and taking them back to Russia. So we're ignoring a lot of reports to try to pin it on the Ukrainians. I bet you the Ukrainians killed all the Ukrainians and Putin didn't even go into Ukraine. I bet Ukraine, right, they're a bunch of Nazis. I heard, I do like that Putin, somebody